recording in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, another one. We're doing another one. We're doing another round of these. And in front of me, I have the man with the most awesome name in Jiu-Jitsu, Chango Eersel. You have an amazing name. Come on. That's one of the most. That's amazing.
And it's really funny because it is actually my real name. A lot of people think that it's like a apellido, né?
Yeah,
But
like
no, it's my real name. It's the name of
I
my parents.
know. That makes it even better. How dare you? How
It's
dare
my
you have such a
passport.
name?
Yeah, for
How
sure.
dare you have such a cool name? How dare you? Well, first off, I do have to mention Choke and Chill. Choke and Chill, you have been very great for us. Thank you so much for believing in the cause. Thank you so much for letting us include you as a sponsor in the things. Monkey Grips, Monkey Tape. Monkey Tape
Hey, I
has
need
been.
those, bro.
We all do. We all do. Those are lifesavers. Monkey Tape, thank you so much that you invented yourself, that you came to be. Because all those other tapes, they just don't do it.
They just come off. Yeah, they just come off.
Monkey Tape is a class above all others. It is true. I want to thank NSA. NSA is one of the guys that actually works with me, and he makes custom rash guards.
Oh wow,
They look
that's
amazing.
nice.
Quality is top. It's not from some sketchy country with sketchy thing. No, everything is, you can go there and everything like that. It's above board, everything nice. And I think we have everyone for now. If anybody wants to be a sponsor, I would love. Speaking of which, I have this background right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I would love to have a big white background full of patches. So I
Yeah, that'd be
need
cool.
I need one of your patches,
So
man.
you basically so I have to sponsor you already, right? And
I
give
want
you a
that.
patch.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
we'll
am going to
support you. We'll get you a patch.
shamelessly, I'm going to ask for a
We're
nice,
just begging on
nice
your show.
patch.
No problem. I'll get you a patch. No problem at all. I'll get you two even. I'll get you the United Fighters one and the NS Brotherhood one. Yeah, because we're affiliated with NS Brotherhood. So
Ah,
I'll get you two.
I would
Don't worry.
love that. I would love. Okay. Let's go. How did you get to NS? Why NS Brotherhood? And why the name Unity that you started? Because Unity is your gym here in the
No.
Netherlands, in Amsterdam.
The name of our team is United Fighters. Like we're
United
different.
Fighters. Sorry,
Yeah.
United Fighters is. I was thinking of Paulo Miao Unity. that's
Yeah,
that's where I got.
actually, we really like that name as well, Unity. But hey, it was taken already. So
United Fighters is an amazing name. How did you get to the name, man? How did it?
it wasn't just me because I started the team with Jasmine, who's been on this show, with Yuri
Yeah.
and with Niels. So we all
Oh,
started the
awesome.
team together, and when we were like brainstorming about the name and the reason why we started the team, it was like, yeah, what's important to us, and one of the things was really that whole feeling of family, inclusiveness, people with different backgrounds, different mindset, but all doing, coming together, uniting around a certain things. And we also wanted to um, have another aspect in that name that would reflect like the competitive spirit that we all had, even though we're all very different. But the reason that we became good friends back in the days was because were always going together to competitions. Of course, not just in Holland, but to the Euros, to London, to all these places year in, year out. And then, you form like a bond. So we wanted to pay homage to that background. So we're praising like, yeah, okay, United what? Yeah, United competitors, no, because then it's gonna be like only competing. No, United Fighters, yeah, let's do that. So that was it.
That was a great name. It's a
Yeah,
great
so that's the
backstory too.
background to that, and how come we're affiliated with NS Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not just our team. More teams in Holland are. That's really simple because the person of Augusto Verhabi, who you've met as well, he's like, yeah, somebody very important to a lot of people that practice jiu-jitsu today. He's also my teacher, the man that gave me my black belt and my first degree.
Augusto is
Um,
an amazing guy. Wherever you
yeah,
are,
he's
Augusto,
really
if
an
you ever
amazing
listen to
guy.
this, you are awesome.
because yeah,
Jaggy
because
Plata all the way.
yeah, but he's not just amazing because of the person that he is, because we've become good friends over the years, actually, but also that he opened the door for us to get into contact with a lot of like, with a different style of jiu-jitsu, with like high level guys, you know, because he, formerly they were all Cicero Costa. So he met a lot of people. 1 year, he sent one of his friends over, who was a brown belt by the name of Mauricio Cristo, who also became a friend, who stayed with us, trained with us.
Oh, that's
You know, and
amazing
he was really instrumental to us, like helping elevate our level, you know. So that's really how I look at Augusto. Also, he's just as a person, he's like a class act, and how he teaches, how he interacts. I learned a lot from that. Yeah.
in the back in the day, he came over to Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
Long time
I
ago, he
know, I
went over
know,
there. Man, I
I
had a
know.
good time with him. I had a good time learning from him. That was the first. That was one of the first Brazilian black belts that showed up in there to teach us. It was awesome.
It was the first that I ever rode with in my life. And 1 year we went to the Europeans, and we met him there because he was also fighting. And I believe that we were blue belts and he was already black belt, of course. And he did the open and then his weight. And, you know, he coached us, he chilled with us, etc., etc. And then we accompanied him through that whole process, him taking on all these black belts, and how, you know, how humble he was, but also how good, and how, you know, it made a big impression. We were just standing there because he came by himself, and we were like students, of course. We didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. And, you know, after each fight, you know, he'd come to us like, hey guys, what did you think? Did you like it? Did you have some water? And yeah, it's just, yeah, inspiring person.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I know, man. I know. Shout out to Augusto.
Shout out
Augusto,
to Augusto. I have
you are a great man.
so many stories about training with him. Like, so I rode with him when I was a white belt. That was like, because back in those days, a black belt was like, I don't know, like an alien, like somebody coming off a spaceship, you know, let alone a Brazilian
An
black belt.
angel.
Yeah, like, I don't know. So, man, I almost froze up, and he was like, no, forget I'm a black belt. Just roll. You know, he was like a super cool guy.
Yeah, man. Oh, that was amazing.
And
How
then
long?
he killed me, but that's a different story.
Yeah, of course. They're supposed to do that. The black belts, I mean, black belts nowadays are much nicer than the old school ones. The old school ones, they
For
no,
sure.
we'll roll, just roll, and everything like that. When you see your everything happens to you. Yeah, man. How long ago did you? Because you got your black belt from Augusto. How long how long have you been a black belt? And how long have you been on jiu-jitsu at this whole time?
So I actually started training around 2004, 2005. I started training.
Wow.
Yeah, back then it was like really small, and I started training under a blue belt actually, from because, you know, back then blue belt, well, still today, but then even more. Blue belts were teaching a lot, and I actually had a good teacher. He was from the Ricks and Gracie team,
Mm.
and I started with them. He was teaching actually close to where I was living. That's also how I met like Raul Hiwat. He's like I believe he's one of their highest ranking teachers now here in Holland,
Oh yeah, that's true.
from the
Rahul.
Ricks and Gracie team. He's also interesting person to talk with, I think, and he was also coming there once in a while to train. And so I started with them, and I was always involved in martial arts. And then, oh, fighting on the ground. No, I don't like it. Yeah, okay, let's give it a go. And before you know it, you're hooked. But then they stopped. They had some falling out with like the landlord, the owner of the gym. You know how it is. Always jiu-jitsu, always
Yeah, man.
stuff like this happens. You know. So they had to stop, and I couldn't train anymore because I had small kids by then. And so I trained together with some guys, just some guys that were more focused on MMA. So we just did grappling, but they also taught good actually, like Sergey, like Virgil the Wind.
Oh yeah,
Train with,
man.
yeah, those guys, like those old school MMA guys, came to train with us, and they knew Yasmin Silgobin, who's the first female black belt. And then she said like, hey, I see that you really like this, blah blah blah. Why don't you come over to Team Agua? And I think that was like 2007 or something, 2008. Then I started training at Team Agua, where of course Hank also trained. A lot of the people that you see now that have their own teams
They all started over
in
there.
this
Yeah.
region, like Amsterdam and surroundings, they all started there. That's where I know those guys from. And we started training there, and they already had this connection with Augusto because he already was like, yeah, he stayed in Holland for a few years. He was teaching there. So that's basically the history. So I trained with Team Agua up on team that was around them. And that's also when I left that team and started my own team together with, well, it's not, I say my team, but it's not my team as such. It's like our team, me and other people that we started it with, but also all the students. You know, it's our team. It's not a one-man show at all. The contrary, it's like yeah, it's united.
It's,
you know, it's together. Yeah. You cannot train
okay.
jiu-jitsu by yourself, you know. You need people to train jiu-jitsu.
We see this now. We see this right now that it is impossible. You need your partner. You need somebody there, man.
Yeah, it's possible. And then so you know, I started with my friends. We started that team. Yeah, because we felt it was like really important to train in a certain way. Yeah, a little bit maybe a little bit more intense, a little bit more pushing it, competition focused, but not so much competition for the sake of competition, but like competition as a tool to, like, you know, expand your whole, you know, to keep pushing your own boundaries, to get out of your comfort zone, and competition can help with that. But I mean, not only competition, of course. Good training, a certain environment can also help you with that. And we felt that it was time to start building that environment ourselves. So we started in 2015. I was a brown belt that year. We started in November. In January, so Augusto gave us our blessing and support. He said, yeah, it's no problem. Start for yourself, and I'll still be involved, you know, with graduations, because I was not a black belt, I was a brown belt. And that year, no, so beginning of 2016, I fought the Euros, which I won. I was super happy.
Yeah,
And when Augusto
man.
came back, he promoted me to black belt.
Yes, I remember, my brother. I really, I saw it. I wasn't, where was I? I was in Brazil, I think, at that
Because
time.
yeah, because actually that year a lot of the Malaysia guys were also there. Like Teddy Boy was there, Terry Boy, Thierry was there. I believe Helen. No, that was the year before. I think a lot of you
Yeah,
guys fought there as well. So
yeah. We didn't do so good.
Helen always does good.
Helen was
She's
awesome.
really good. She's really good.
Helen was very, and still
She's very good.
is.
She's,
And
I
that is one
know.
of the persons that I want to
I've
do
seen her
art.
fight many times. She's very good.
Yeah, man, she's amazing. Never
Yeah.
gave up. Always kept kept going in this path, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, man. That is an amazing story. I
So
mean,
that's the
it's
story in
very
short. And I
well.
mean, it's really funny. And maybe Hank said the same thing. But when we started our own team, so like it's hard to start your own team, because when we started, like for the first year, we had like, I don't know, 3 or 4 students that are still with us, by the way. Yeah, we had 3 or 4 students. And if maybe one person couldn't come or two, then it was like, man, there's always going to be almost no one on the mat. Still, the
Uh,
memories of those days are really super cool. Yeah.
man, I don't. Yeah, it's hard. In the beginning, is
No, because
really really
in the
hard to do.
beginning, and that's why I'm saying that it's definitely not like my team, and that it's never a one-man show. Because in the beginning, me and the other founders, we all had to like chip in to make the rent, because you know the students that wasn't paying the rent at all. So, and I mean, of course, I'm the oldest, so my life was already in a phase that, you know, was doable. But the other guys, when I say guys, I mean guys and girls, by the way, like Jasmine and Niels and Yuri, they were younger. So for them, it was maybe even like more of a sacrifice to have to do that, because we were definitely not making money. We're not even like breaking even. We had to like at the end of every month sit together and say like, hey man, we're still these
You're still
€100
paying for it.
apart. Oh, we got to chip in.
Oh man, but that does.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you didn't. We all want the money, but it does. It's a good thing that you guys kept together and stayed together, because that forms bonds. Come on, the
For
going
sure,
through
for
hard
sure,
times together,
for sure.
that doesn't form simple friendship bond. That forms a brotherhood, a unity, as you said, a united essence in everything like that. I think going through hard times together is what really shapes us in
Yeah,
friendship.
and I really think that, especially in jiu-jitsu, because there's so many hard times. So this is an example. But I mean, we didn't experience it as a hard time, but looking back at it, I was like, wow, man. But
Look where we came from.
your hard times on the mat, in competition, whatever, and it forms a bond that, which is like a double-edged sword, actually. That it becomes sort of like a family, and of course, you have functional families and you have dysfunctional families, and in jiu-jitsu, there's also like this how you say, this risk of things becoming like a cult, which can happen, and
We're
it
not gonna talk about that,
no,
or
we're not
like
gonna talk,
we're not gonna point
but that's
fingers,
just because the bond is
Gracies.
so strong, and even with us, so like with Jasmine and with Gio, another one of our friends and teammates, we drill together like, I believe we used to drill before Corona, like every Tuesday and Thursday,
There you go.
and we know each other so well that we almost don't need to speak. In fact, we don't speak a lot when we drill. And so when we go into the gyms, because we rent mat space in the gym, you've been there. One of
Yeah.
the ladies behind the bar, she once asked me like, "Hey, so are all you guys family? Are you all related?" Which we are not at all. But we don't even look alike. But that's the bond that even people see like them. They must be related the way they're interacting. That's what
Man,
jiu-jitsu gives you, though. Yeah,
there's
it's
something
not a
about
friend.
fighting each other and training with each other that forms a bond that
Yeah,
does
because
something to you.
maybe that's why it's like family. Because I actually grew up as an only child, but I've like cousins that I'm close to.
Mhm.
You can fight, or maybe have brothers or sisters. I don't know. And sometimes, yeah, you'll fight with them, but they're still your brother.
Yeah,
With
that's
my
true.
own kids, they have these discussions, and 5 minutes later, like, hey, let's go into town. Oh yeah, let's go. Because you learn to like set to not get stuck on the differences, and because you joke each other all the time, you can not get angry at all with
No,
each other. 'Cause, yeah, you joke me, I joke you.
it's part of the game.
Yeah, okay, let's get it going.
Oh man,
The jiu-jitsu teaches you.
you have some good guys fighting with you too. I remember going over there and I had a hard time. It was I got back and I started training with you guys. I said, "This is good. This is good. This is high level. This is awesome. These guys know what they're doing."
Yeah, there are some really good guys. There's some really, and
Oh man.
girls, by the way,
And
and women
girls, by the way.
also.
Well, with
Really good
guys,
women.
I try to get everybody.
Yeah, yeah, there's some really good, very good ones. It's funny because jiu-jitsu is really like hard, and I had a student one day, and he was really working hard, and he was really struggling, trying to get the technique, sparring, doing basically everything right. He was doing great in my view. But then after a few months, he came to me and he said like, Shango, or teacher or whatever he said like, hey, I've already been training for 5-6 months and I've never tapped anyone. Is that normal? But he asked me seriously, so, and I felt for the guy because he was doing everything right, and jiu-jitsu is just hard. I said, yeah, man, it's normal. Trust you. I didn't tap anyone for like the first 2 years. You'll do better than me for sure. Actually, I'm a black belt. I teach these guys. Weeks go by and I don't tap them. So
I have the same
it's just a
problem.
part of it.
Oh, students, white belts, wherever you are, take it easy, man. It's really
Yeah, don't
weird.
be don't be too hard on yourself,
No,
especially if you're like a lighter weight or whatever.
yeah.
You'll be good. Even be one of the best guys. If you're like lightweight and you stick with it, you'll be one of the best on the mat.
That is something I can swear to and I can hold on to. If anybody wants to learn jiu-jitsu, find a lightweight. Find and don't find big guys are there, good big guys out there. They're really good big guys out there. But if you want to learn technical and good and smart jiu-jitsu, find a small guy. Find somebody that is a lightweight, that's because they go through a different struggle than when you're big. If you're big, you can use your weight a little bit, but if you're small, you go through a different. The only reason I
Everything
became
you do when you're small has to be like technically sound because otherwise it's not going to work. Whereas,
Mm,
yeah, the more strength you have, the bit which
yeah,
goes with weight, yeah, then you can get away with stuff.
yeah. I had to learn. I had always had small teachers, so I'm lucky. I'm one of the lucky ones. I learned a very technical, very flow
But
jiu-jitsu.
were yeah, because you were always heavy, right? Because I remember when I like first saw you fighting, which was like I don't know, like 2012, like back in the days,
Purple belt?
purple belt.
Yeah, that's something like that. That's some time ago. No, it was let me see. Let me see.
14, I don't know. Like
14,
in the
15, something like
Malaysia,
that.
yeah, in the Malaysia time, because you were always, even though you're a big guy, you were always like flexible, and then you were like inverting a lot and stuff
Yeah, I
like
did
that.
some crazy shit at that time. I thought at that time that there's just the
Even though you're a big guy, even though you're a big guy.
I thought that time the key to jiu-jitsu was birimbolos and tornado sweeps and everything like that. I only did that. I went
Yeah, but
from
that's true, isn't it?
yeah. That is jiu-jitsu nowadays. Yep, yeah. Until I got to Brazil and I trained with more traditional jiu-jitsu fight and the old school guys, and I tried to invert on them, and they
They just
just
smash you.
smashed the hell out of me. Small guys, big guys, it did not matter. The moment my ass left the floor to invert, oh my god, boom. I got pushed into the floor like I was nothing. I didn't weigh anything. And then they taught me also something important. They taught me to use strength as well. They taught me a good part of like, use your weight. You're big. Don't deny yourself something you already have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Yeah, sometimes I joke about it because like I also really like to invert. I really like to do all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, you know, I intend on doing jiu-jitsu till the day that I die. So I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this stuff now, but I better start working my half guard because when I'm like 82 and I have to roll with people, man, I'm just gonna go into my half guard. I'm just
Well,
gonna sit there being smashed for 6 minutes. And when the guy just makes one little mistake, I'm gonna get on
there you
top. I'm
go.
just gonna put
There
pressure,
you go.
joke as hard as I can, and it'll be like,
There
man,
you
the
go.
old guys are
I'm already working on my
you're
butterfly.
ahead because you're already a good half guard player, so you're ahead, and I still have to work
I
on mine.
the moment I tore my
You're still
meniscus,
young.
I said I'm not inverting anymore. That's done. I'm not doing it anymore. It's a I'm going from half guard to butterfly, and that is it. If you want me to see me inverting, you're gonna have to do some crazy stuff too.
I'm
Then I
gonna
might.
try. I'm gonna try.
Oh man! Oh, good times. Good stuff. Good stuff. You went to Brazil too, huh?
Yeah, but so that's really funny though because I went to Brazil. I actually lived there. I studied there.
Ah,
Yeah. But this was like way back when I like university days. I studied there for almost 2 years. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Where?
Two places. So in Rio Grande do Sul, like Porto
Wow.
Alegre, and
Yeah.
in Minas Gerais,
Ah,
also
both of
also
them
big.
have amazing food.
Yeah, actually,
Minas?
they
Oh,
really have amazing food,
those two
incredible
places?
food. Both like the south is like for the beef, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you're into wine, by the way,
Yeah.
for the beef, like the churrasco in the south.
The
So
South
churrasco is like the
is
Brazilian
another level.
barbecue.
Yeah, churrasco is. Oh, come on! If you're
No,
listening
because
to this podcast and guys, you don't know
because
what churrasco is.
you know, because normally when you go and have churrasco, like in Brazil, but also here or everywhere, it's like a rodízio. You know, they
Yeah.
come with. But like when I went to the south back then, you could just say like, "Hey, I only want yeah whatever cut you want," and they just give you like the whole the whole sort with the beef just for you. So if
Yeah.
me, you, and some other guys go, maybe you like I don't know what's your favorite
Picanha,
yeah, me too.
papai.
Picanha.
Oof.
Okay, so then it wouldn't work. But maybe I do picanha, you do this, and then you just sit there. You have a beer, and they bring you like the salad. So it was different because I only had it in the south that you can just say, I just want picanha, and they just okay, poop. They just give you the whole thing.
Oh, the whole sword. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, that's
whole
what they
sword
do.
that's in the south.
Oh man, now I miss it. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
why?
Minas is great. But the funny thing, everybody thinks like, oh, so you're in Brazil. That's where you met Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I don't think that people realize that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like as an art and as in becoming popular, that it's still very recent because I was there like in the 90s, beginning of the 90s, and there wasn't much jiu-jitsu going on. I was already doing martial arts, so when I went to these places, I looked for art, yeah, to train, to do something. There was no jiu-jitsu. There was like, I trained there actually. I did a little bit of karate, to say it like more Portuguese, like karate, whatever. And actually, village, but there was actually like a Brazilian champion living there. So, it was super good, but there was no jiu-jitsu to be found, I think, like beginning of the 90s. In Minas, of course, there were places, but it's like, you really would have to look for it. It was like pre-internet. Of course, Rio, Sao Paulo, that would be different. But there, no, it was
In
not
the
to be
middle was
found.
a little
I
bit
only
hard.
came to learn of jiu-jitsu like here. Yeah.
Okay. You went to Brazil and
Yeah, which
didn't
is
do
it's
jiu-jitsu.
no, it's too bad. It's too bad because imagine if I would have found it. Well, maybe I would have quit by now.
uh,
It doesn't matter. But
oh my God, the red belt by
and,
now, something
yeah, and
like that.
of course later on I went. So
No, it was it.
years ago we went like on holiday with my family. Then I trained, but that's different.
Yeah, that's absolutely, man. Oh my God, it was amazing, 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 amazing. But you did find jiu-jitsu at the right moment, I think.
I
When it
did.
showed
I
up,
did.
it showed up, and that was great, man. Oh, that is awesome.
But I
And
like
did
training in Brazil. I only trained at like one place, but it was just like a small place. But I liked it because there were like um, young kids, old guys, everybody, but everybody, I like the structure of the class. I know that some people nowadays are really into more the American way, more like a whole structured curriculum, etc., etc., a whole structured class, like different classes for beginners, for maybe
Mhm.
women, for the young, for the old, etc., etc. And I understand that, and it has its value, but I liked it when I trained in Brazil because it was like a really funny story. So I didn't know anyone. We went to Salvador, Bahia, which is like a really nice place. So I just looked on the internet, like, hey, where can I train? Then I gave them a call. It was actually a Gacy Baja school, and they were
Okay.
super nice. And so I spoke to this guy, and he said, like, hey, he was already talking to me like he knew me for like 10 years. So I was, hey, man, good that you called. Yeah, just come in. So I went there. It was in the gym, and class would start at 4. When I was there at 4, there was no one. And the girl behind the counter, she said like, so I said like, hey, I come for the jiu-jitsu training. And she looked at me like I was like this dim-witted child. She said, for jiu-jitsu? She said, but no, those guys are always late. They're never here before 5, the training would start. So then slowly people started coming in. But once everybody was there, the training was like short warm-up. Professor showed like one technique, and then we just rolled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody, young, old, everybody rolled super hard. It
Yeah.
was like this place in Salvador, close to the beach. You feel the breeze. Everybody was just rolling, rolling. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Afterwards, just have a chat, just talk, have fun.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really
man.
like that style of training.
It was just like that when I got to Brazil and I got to Juquinha.
Yeah,
Juquinha.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Juquinha is a really big, like one of the older guys trained with the other. He has and the same thing. I got there full of people. The first thing I said, I came there with my purple belt, feeling good. I looked at the mat and people were just, there weren't too many people, but then they started coming in. I think 20, 30 black belts, one after the other. Bap, 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 bap. Couple of white belts too, a couple of kids, women, it didn't matter. Old
Old
guys,
guys,
new guys, everybody together and just go. And it was literally what he did was a short warm up. Let's warm a little bit, run, push ups, stuff like that. Get the body warm, and then we one technique, but we did the one technique in against various people, like almost fighting. Okay, we're gonna do this and try to do it. And then after that, it was sparring without end. The sparring never ended. The black belts got to choose who they wanted to fight with. That's true. It's true. Half of us stayed on the sides watching, and then half was fighting, and then that half came out, and then it kept going until somebody gave up, and then you took their place, and then
Yeah, but it's funny because I like that way of training, and of course I can see that, you know, maybe that's not the way to like grow a school or whatever, because also in Brazil people are going away from that. If you look at like Aliança, you know, like
yeah. So Fabio
they're all,
Gurgel did an amazing job, by the way.
yeah, they're also moving away from that style of training, you know, complex or something different, of course. But yeah, it has its fun bits. But like, even Gusto, my teacher, we talked about this a lot because, you know, when you have a team, you think about, hey, how should I structure classes? Let me learn from people that already do this. And he said too that like he used to do it like that, but like now, for example, white belts, um, he doesn't let them spar up until they've reached a certain level. And I think that what we forget is that in Holland, as teachers, we're sort of like lucky and sort of have an easy job. Well, I do, because a lot of the people that come into my gym or team, whatever, they already have some sort of background. They actually look for jujitsu, and then they come, or maybe they already did jujitsu, or they look for a certain team. So they already have a background. Maybe they did some kickboxing, maybe they did some karate, maybe they did some judo, whatever. So the starting point is already, they're already quite fit. Or I know you too. I know you teach some cops, for example, or guys in the fire brigade. Yeah, they're already fit. You know, they already know how to like take care of themselves. But
Yeah.
when as it gets more popular, you're gonna get people on the mat that don't know anything, that don't have a notion of fighting. One time, I was also teaching in Haarlem. You know, this small city close to Amsterdam, and two guys came on the mat. They were school teachers. They were like, I think in their 50s, maybe even beginning 60s, and they came onto the mat because there was this program going on, and somebody from my team, actually Jasmine, she did like a program with the kids at the school, and they saw that and they liked it so much that they said like, hey, we want to come train. Super cool, right?
Awesome.
So then they came into my class because Jasmine sent them, obviously. But they were like a little bit older. They didn't know anything. They had no, so for you and me, it's strange, but they had no notion of fighting. So me, I come from a, so, you know, I come from a background where, you know, I had a good life, I had an easy life. My parents worked hard to provide, etc., etc. Never, I was a good kid. But even me as a kid, I've been in fights. But these guys, you know, different life, different country also. They had no notion of fighting. And then jujitsu can be very abstract. They just, you know, yeah, why should you shrimp? Why should you this? And that's when I realized that some of the things that maybe I personally um, didn't give a lot of value to, that they became valuable. So for them to like translate the real world into their jiu-jitsu experience, I started with teaching them more like self-defense type techniques, because then at least I could sort of break it down why you have to do certain things, like talk to them about
Yeah.
distance management, you know, stuff like what, you know, the Gracies in a traditional way get a lot of flack, and me too, because, you know, there's a lot of marketing there. And you know, I'm not like this, you know, you have all these, how shall I say, you have these guys for whom self-defense is everything, and I think that self-defense is like super broad.
Yeah.
It's much more than jiu-jitsu. It has a lot to do with stuff that have nothing to do with fighting. But anyway, just to make it sort of understandable for them, I had to like go back to like, hey, so just imagine that somebody wants to grab your wrist. Okay, now we're gonna, you know, make this circle movement to get rid of it, stuff like that, you know, like super basic and super simple and self-defense focused. Because yeah, those guys didn't come to compete, they didn't come to like roll with you or tap you, whatever. They had no clue. They just, so you
Yeah.
know, just saying like, hey, even your own maybe prejudices or whatever dogmas, you know, when it gets bigger and when you have to teach more people, you're gonna see like, hey, okay, no, I shouldn't let these. Maybe it's also common sense. I shouldn't let these guys, because of course I'm 48, but I'm already a black belt. But if you're like 56 and you're a white belt, that's different, you
I
know.
shouldn't throw them to the
I shouldn't
wolves,
throw
just
them to the
not.
wolves. And that's also what Augusto told me. He said, like, it was very funny. He said, no, I can't let them spar. They won't survive, you know?
Yeah, they will hate it. No, that's true.
They'll hate it and they'll leave. So, whereas in the beginning, me too, I was one of the persons like, no, you have to spar since day one because, you know, that's jiu-jitsu. You have to overcome I'm still like in the middle on this, by the way. You have
Yeah,
to overcome the hard times. And it's, you know, I say pressure makes diamonds, stuff like that.
yeah, that's true.
At the same time, yeah, as your school's gonna grow, or maybe not even your school's gonna grow, but if you come into contact with more people, different people, like, hey, maybe I should
I, I,
more. So we tried it also at our team. We did like a white belt half hour before the normal training.
oh, that is
They
good.
liked it.
That is
They
really
found,
good. That's good. That's good stuff.
yeah, but you can only do that if you've got like a batch of white belts coming in. If
Yeah,
you've
if you
got
have a little bit, then
one white belt coming in, you're not gonna do that. But we did it for a while. Then it sort of, you know, because especially my team, everybody just likes to spar and to do
I
stuff. But
remember.
before you knew it, things escalated into something else. But
I do realize that
look at that.
one of the greatest, the people that teach me the most stuff are those white belts. When they have to, when they come over and like, what is jiu-jitsu? Why do you
For
do this? And
sure,
everything like this.
for
It
sure.
makes us rethink. It makes us think like, why is it that we shrimp? Because in Brazil, the only thing they taught us shrimp. Why? Because I said so.
Yeah,
And then you have
but
to
I
do it.
mean that's the traditional way of teaching in all martial arts. It's like, hey, you know, no questions until
Yeah.
you're like a certain level that I can talk to you.
At brown belt,
That
you
we
can
can have a
start making questions.
conversation. Yeah,
Yes,
purple.
purple
For
and
now,
stuff
just
like.
do as I say because you don't know anything.
Oh man, that is so true. That is so true, and that is one of the things that I. Uh, Now they teach me a lot. These white belts teach me a lot because they go and ask me questions that for me are so natural. So sometimes we do a move, and we naturally do that move, and then we get to that and we're like, why did you do that? Or how did you do that? I said, you know what? I don't know. I have no
Yeah,
idea. I have to admit to them. I
you
said,
really
I
have to
don't know how
think.
I did that. I have no idea. It just happens. And then I have to break it down in my head, and it makes me a better fighter. It makes me a
True.
better teacher. It makes me a better fighter because I understand why I'm doing it and for what reason. That is amazing. White belts. I mean, if anybody there is already at a nice, let's say, a high purple belt, brown belt, or black belt, teach. Teach because it will teach you a lot more than you think.
That's really true. That's really super true. Yeah. Well, still learn every day from
Every day,
winning
man.
to
This is
learning.
an amazing sport.
So, Julio, a question for you. So,
Oh, I get questions.
yeah, of course, because we're just talking about, you know, teams, jiu-jitsu, whatever.
Yeah,
So, do you do a lot of takedowns with your students?
I started.
Because I noticed that you have some schools that do, some schools that don't at all, whatever. Yeah. What's your
I used to be a natural guard puller, and then I started competing in Brazil at brown belt level. And if you're a guard puller, they already gave you the idea from you're starting at the wrong end of this,
also
especially
in your weight
heavyweight.
class, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
especially heavyweight. You're
exactly.
starting in the wrong. I mean, you're gonna out of your own free will take all this
You're gonna
pressure
go
at once. So
why?
no, I started doing judo. Judo. I started getting judo, and I focused my mind, and I told my teacher, I got a personal friend. It was a black belt in judo and wanted to learn jiu-jitsu. So I got him, and I said, I just want to learn
That's
one
a good
thing.
deal.
I want to do one thing only. I'm going to do uchimata until I am the best uchimata guy around. I don't want to learn.
This is
Eh,
actually my favorite throw as well, Uchimata.
really? Yeah, there you go, my brother.
I
And
think if you're a guard puller, maybe this is the only one that you can actually do sort of reasonably.
so I told him, teach me just this. And then from there, we build everything around it. And I spent all the time
Oh,
doing
that's cool.
uchimata, 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 uchimata. And it did help. It did
I
help
would keep
because
it.
I lost my fear from standing up, you know, and In my mind, it was the fact, if the guy takes me down, he takes me down to what I like to do already. And then I started teaching my students. I said, guys, you have to start standing up. This whole game starts on your feet. If you pull somebody down, pull them down in a way that they're so disadvantaged and in such a bad position that they have to be defensive for the rest of the fight. And yeah.
It's really funny because for me, it was actually the other way. So first of all, I think takedowns are super important, especially when you teach. What your strategy is for competition, that's a different discussion, because then you're just gonna go into your A game, and if your A game is guard, then you should by all means do that. I do that as well. But I think, you know, when you teach, you try to give people a certain foundation, and once they have the foundation, they'll you know, construct their own game, and takedowns are an important part of that, or also for them to, you know, but you know, every fight starts standing as well. But for me, it was different. I actually started, people don't believe this when I say it, I actually started as a white belt. I only did takedowns and passes.
I don't believe a word you say. I don't believe a word you say. I played in your guard.
If you look back at it, so I started training with guys from Ricks and Gracie.
Okay.
You know, yeah, they were blue belts at the time, but still they were good teachers. And that's, of course, a more traditional school. So yeah, they're going to teach you at least some takedowns, you know. And I thought that was jiu-jitsu, that, you know, it was like judo, and once you fell down, it just continued. So I started doing that, just take down, try to pass. Well, try to make the takedown, because it didn't always work out, obviously, and try to pass. And one day I went to this competition, and I tried to play that. It was like back in the day, she had this competition called Limburg Open. It was like in Belgium somewhere. Anyway, I went there and I was going to do the same thing. But this time I met up with a judo guy who was like, well, you know me, I'm like tall and skinny, and he was like short and stocky. So he was already like under my hips, and he just threw me like so hard. But I was lucky and in bad luck, because he threw me out of the mat. So I didn't land on the mat, but like on the hard surface. So it hurt like crazy. At the same time, it was no points, because, you know, so the bad luck was hurt. The good thing was it was no points.
I'd rather give him the points.
They went back to the middle of the mat, and he did it again. Boom. And then he ended up in my close guard, but he couldn't pass the close guard. So he won 2-0. Then at that competition, you could also do the open class, even if you didn't medal, because I didn't medal. The open class, what do I see? My first fight in the open class with this same guy. I was like, man, what am I going to do? My then teacher, Remco, he said like, hey, whatever you do, don't go for the takedowns, just pull guard. And I was like, oh, you can pull guard. I said, yeah, just pull guard, just grabbing, and, you know, just pull guard, just sit down and pull him into your close guard. So I did. Boom, pulled him into the close guard. He couldn't get out. He tried to stand up. I just did like the white belt sweep, like, you know, you grab both heels. He fell down. Boom, I went to mount, you know, like the true white belt sweep. Maybe we're white belts. Right? Like
it works. It works.
And then when I mounted, he turned away, so I was on his back. So in the end, I didn't choke him or anything, but in the end, I won with like, I don't know, let's say sweep. So with like 10-0, yeah? And I was like, wow, this shit works. This stuff works. And then I had another fight with a guy that was not so strong, like physically, that was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it again. And I just did it again for the whole competition, and I ended up in like third place. And I was like, and ever since that day, I've been pulling guard.
You stuck with the recipe for success, and that is amazing.
I was like, I'm sorry, this works. I'm not even that tired. This really works.
Yeah, that's the best part. That's the best part. It doesn't make you tired. Once you pull guard, you can breathe, you can do stuff, and you do stand up. Oh my God.
And of course, I have I'm a guy with long limbs, so so then I just did close guard, and then at some stage, the close guard wasn't working anymore. All my teammates, or even in competition, everybody knew, because it's actually hard. As people get better, they're not going to give you the close guard. No way, you know. And then I talked to my teacher and I was like, man, I'm stuck in the close guard. And then they break it open, don't know what to do. And I had a private with them. And then that private, he showed me like spider guard. It was like 1 hour private, super good. What to do, spider guard from the knees. When the guy stand up, or when he stands up, he walks away. That was the private. I was like, oh, spider guard. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Oh man.
So it's all super simple, but no, but when I teach, I think it's really because I actually and there's also one thing in Nogi, I don't like to pull guard. In Nogi, I mean I do pull if it's like IBJF rule set, but in general I don't like to pull guard in Nogi. Uh, I'd rather be on top. I'd rather be on top. So yeah, I think takedowns are important to teach, and it's also fun. It's also fun.
That is the most part of it. I mean, the best part of it is fun. I went to a Naga competition. There's Sambo
Don't get me
World.
wrong. I'm not super good at them, not at all. But it's
No, but it's fun. It's fun to be stand up and trying that stuff. I was in the Naga competition against a Sambo fighter, and he was a world champion Sambo fighter. I said, I have to do stand up. I have to try this. I have to know what he does. I have to learn. And I lost to him at the very end because of seconds. I was like, oh, my time is passing, because he was a purple belt or something like that. He wrote himself into advanced. But he was a world champion Sambo fighter. And I was like, I have to know what the takedowns are. I have to try it. And it was so cool. We went one point to the mat. He threw me to the other point, and I was like, yeah. It is great, man. We have to enjoy the fighting too. We have to enjoy those moments, those opportunities we get.
Yeah, that's one thing though. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to ask you about, or maybe talk with you about, because I think in the other podcast that you did, you guys also talked about competing, and what was it that you say that competing should be fun, but that also you shouldn't let yourself be defined by competition or some stuff like that.
I do believe that if I go to the competition, especially nowadays, my problem with it is I used to go to competition so nervous, so incredibly nervous. I thought it was I knew that other people were nervous too, but I used to get silent and my stomach would hurt and I couldn't eat. And I used to go to the competition. I used to arrive to the competition and then immediately go to the toilet because my stomach was so bad and I felt horrible. Until to the point where I started fighting and I didn't care if I lose or win anymore. I tried to fight the fighter, not do the competition. I used to be interested more in the person I'm going to go against, what they're going to do, see if I could learn, turn it into a game of let me ask question and answer. Let me see what I can do to my own game from what this person can teach me, you know? And from that point on, I relaxed so much that I was having a lot more fun doing competition. So I threw away if I would win or lose, and I would go more for, let's see how this fight will go. What can I do? What can I try? Is there something new I can see? What is like without necessarily like I'm gonna go with a game plan? I was going to go let me see what you do if I do this. Let me see what you do if I do this. And if I do, oh, you made it wrong, you made a mistake, and I got you. That's more how I went into it. And it didn't become anything more of like, I have to focus and everything like that. I focus a little bit. I focus on what my opponent is doing a little bit, watch him, and then see what I would do to answer his questions. What I see him like doing the same exact game, and then ask myself, what would he do? Like if it's a foot locker or a leg locker, what would he do if I start the fight on my knees? If he pulls guard and then I just drop on my knees in his half guard, let's see if what would he do? Or what if I stay away? What if it's become more fun this way. And I've won a lot more.
It's funny because I mean I think that people are also different mentally, of course, and what's going to work for one is not going to work for somebody else. Because I mention this because I'm actually different. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. So, of course, a win or a loss in jiu-jitsu cannot define you, because even guys like Bushesha, even guys like Rudolfo, or or current generation, like Muhammad Ali, you know, Mirigali, Keenan. In jiu-jitsu, everybody loses. So if you're just gonna let the outcome define you as a person, that's just not gonna work because you're gonna lose. One thing is guaranteed in jiu-jitsu: you're gonna lose
That is
at one
absolutely true.
time or another. Yeah. But at the other hand, even though it's a game, it's a sport. Um, if you win, you don't get anything except like a medal, and
Yeah.
especially I fight in the masters division, so it's not as if you're going to be like world famous, whatever. But still, I'm not like super competitive with everything. But yeah, when I go on the mat, for me, it's like important to actually have a strategy and to really have a strategy and to try to win. And there's a lot of people that look down on people winning by advantages, but
Yeah.
I'm not like that at all, because it's a game and you want to win it at that moment, of course. So it's not the most important thing in the world, but during those 5 minutes or those 10 minutes, whatever it is, just during that time, it's super important. And I'm the type of person, I have a strategy, and if within that strategy, and it's like a tournament with more fights, and I know that now I'm up one advantage or two advantages, I'll keep those advantages. I'm not gonna like open up because hey, I want to look good or it's fun. No, let's get on to the next fight. And
It
some people, and
is.
you hear people like on podcasts like, yeah, or on social media like, yeah, but he only won by an advantage. So just in general, or yeah, but he won on points. Do you know how hard it is if somebody's like
To get
really
that one
fighting
point.
back, really
Especially
wants
once
to
you get
choke
to
you,
the same
whatever.
level, at the same
You know how hard
category.
it is to win by advantage. I'm like, yo, you guys are talking on social media. It's not that
If
easy.
you are in black belt and you're competing at a high level and you're against somebody else at a high level, a small mistake could be everything. And if you can get an advantage out of that, please keep that advantage. There's no such thing as having shame for an advantage. I've been.
And then in fact, so like, jiu-jitsu is great for competition
Mhm.
because you can compete in I mean gi jiu-jitsu, but also no gi, because you can compete in a very safe manner. There are weight classes, there are belt levels, there are even age divisions every 5 years. It's great. So there's really no, you don't need to be, of course, as a human being, you're always scared to a level, but you don't really have to be, rationally speaking. You don't need to be scared to
No.
compete. Even like emotionally, it's something different, of course. But it's very hard in jiu-jitsu to fight and not make mistakes. And so in purple and in brown, I won the Europeans, and in black I medaled one or two times.
Oof. Oof.
But what I want to say is like I only won when I won. It was like the most boring fights ever
Hmm.
when I won. So when I won like, I don't know, I had like 3 fights or something, and I like won all of them on advantage. But why is that? Because for me as a person, and that's just me as a person, if I don't make mistakes, the chance of me winning goes really up a lot. And it's really strange, but if you're conservative, then the chance of you making a lot of mistakes are less. So in those 5 minutes, I'm trying to win. So if I'm just conservative, if I have a game plan, if once I'm up with an advantage, or if I'm, playing a smart game that's going to help me, I think it's important. That works for me. Having said that, I have a student and a friend, by the way. I don't know if you know him, like Tyron. He does MMA now. Yeah, he's a
I
totally
think so.
different animal. He just comes onto the mat or into the ring. He just go with it. He's the type of fighter that just say, "Hey, man, I'm just here to I'm just here to bang. I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
with it," and that works perfectly for his psyche. But
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
psyche, it's more like, no, I need to have a plan. I need to be calculating and not to make mistakes and try maneuver like this. So
I.
it's different.
I
And with
think that.
students, I also say this. I say, hey, it's good to have a plan. If you know that, it's also good not to have a plan.
I think the most important thing is go. go fight and discover these things about yourself, because if
Yeah,
you
it's
end up
really fun.
looking at every single person, they all have a different way of doing it. They
Everybody's
all have,
different. Yeah.
I remember one time I walked.
And sometimes it's a combination of these things because yeah, you have a plan, but then the guy does something like, oh shit, okay,
I
now we just have to go.
walked past André Galvão when he was in the Europeans here, and he had this, and I was like, oh my god, that's André Galvão. So I walked only past him, and he's way shorter than me and
Yeah, he's
so
short.
much bigger. It was the Europeans one where he broke somebody's rib with a stack pass. I was like, oh my god, I can't
This was
believe.
2015, right?
Yes, that I was in
I was
2015.
there too. This
Oh,
was
you were there too,
2015.
where he
Okay.
like squeezed the guy over, and I walked past him, and he
It
was in
was
the
the
same.
year that he won a weight and absolute.
Exactly,
Yeah, and
exactly.
Gabi won it for the females. Yeah, I was there.
I watched that whole thing. I watched all his fights, and the whole time he was just moving, getting his things out, and I passed him, and he had the earphones on, and I could hear him blasting gospel music. The gospel music going off in his ears. It was like
He was
hallelujah.
in the zone. Yeah.
He was in his, but everybody has their own thing. I wouldn't be able. I put music on, but I much rather walk around, talk a little bit, as if it was another day in training. It's something in my mind works better that way. If I fight happy, I fight very good. If I fight stressed or something like that, it's useless. I freeze up.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Psychology is super
It's
hard.
the psychology part of that. I tried doing plans. I tried getting into a planning thing about that, but in my mind, if the plan broke, I
Then you'd
didn't
be
know what to do
lost.
anymore. I
Yeah.
was lost, and I tried everything and help. And at this point, I keep working on it. I mean, I can't wait for the competitions to come back and me to
Me
go in
too.
there,
Yeah.
make friends again, make fighting experiences again, and try to. I always try to really get my points and really submit. Really do the thing, but I'm not specifically thinking about it. I'd see what the person does so I can see how good I can react or how well.
Yeah,
It's
it's fun. It's fun because it's hard for yourself. Like, hey, how I'm gonna do it? Of course you have fears. Of course you're nervous, etc., etc. I'm gonna have a plan or not. But what's even like harder and more rewarding also is like when you bring your students to compete.
they expect stuff from you. What you get in there.
Well, I mean, and they should, but I mean, for me, my students are like, I really want them to have a good time. Really want them to have a good time.
To enjoy themselves.
To enjoy
Oh, I
themselves,
know.
well, to feel good about themselves. Basically, that's what I really want for them.
Yeah. I remember having students go to competition as well, and they were scared. They were scared. They were running away. They don't want to do it anymore. And I was like, no, guys, come on. We're gonna have fun. This is like it's not gonna reflect on you if you win or lose. It's gonna be good. Go in there, see
For
what you
sure.
can do. Try something weird. Try something weird. Do a takedown in an R bar. Go for it. And then they go and they go like, this is the best feeling. I love it when white belts do their first fight and they come out of the fight. If they win, that they celebrate like it's the world championship.
But it is, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, yeah, it's important. Like, if you compare it to like, I don't know, hunger in the world, coronavirus, whatever. No, it's not important. But
Yeah,
for
man.
those 5 minutes,
It
it's
is.
the most important
It's the
thing in the
whole
world.
thing. It is, man. Coronavirus, dude.
No,
How
but it's
I,
super cool because you also see people grow. You see maybe this guy that in the gym is struggling. You see him at competition or her, tearing through everybody, or the other way around. So it's yeah. So for me, I don't think competition is the most important thing in the world. I don't think it's the only way to like improve yourself at all. At the same time, it can really be a valuable tool, and it can really help you to get to know yourself better, see what you're capable of, and I think it's super cool to be a part of that process. Both as a competitor, for me, I think it's valuable because yeah, like everybody, you're always a little bit scared or nervous or whatever. But also to help people do that is super cool. I mean, like
that is
I
true.
think it's really important. And like I said, sometimes in jiu-jitsu, you see that um, people don't want to compete, and sometimes there are really good reasons not to compete. But sometimes it's also like, hey, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. And then I'm like, hey, if you look at these old guys playing football, like soccer, they compete every Saturday, right? And jiu-jitsu, if you're like an average person, not super into competition, yeah, how often are you going to compete? Like 3-4 times a year, maybe?
Yeah.
You can do that, however busy you are, and you'll see you'll get a lot out of it. It's fun because that
You
same
become a
student
lot better.
I was talking about earlier that said to me like, hey, I'm already training for close to half a year. I never submitted everyone. That guy was like super light,
Mm-hmm.
like 50 kilos or something like that. Then the competition came to town, and he said like, hey, do you think I can compete? Do you think can register because I'm not doing so well? I said, yeah, man, go for it, no problem. I'll roll with you a lot, and then I gave him the feedback, yeah, go for it. So then he went to the competition, and he did really well. He didn't or anything, but he fought really well. Why was that? Yeah, then he was in a competition bracket with only other guys of 50 kilos, and he could really like test himself in like the right way, And then he was like, hey, jiu-jitsu is fun. I'm actually good, So
It's
it
it's
worked in a lot
awesome.
of ways. Yeah.
It's awesome, man. It is awesome. Yeah, we are in weird times right now. By the way, we
What
are
weird,
going
crazy
through.
time.
At certain point, some people even say, "This is the end of the world. Welcome." How are you?
No, no, I mean, it's definitely not going to be the end of the world. The end of humanity, I don't think so either, but that would be possible, but not the end of the world. The world's going to
Nah,
be here a
man.
long time after we've gone.
How do you feel about this? Do you think we can safely return? Should we already return? Should we already go towards Corona? My personal opinion, yes. End this all. Let's go. But if you think like, no, it's going good. Let's take it easy. What do you think?
Ooh, that's a hard question
I know,
because
man.
for me personally, I'm like an irresponsible person in many ways. I'm like the guy that, so imagine you and me would be on the mat right now, then you'd be like, hey, Shango, let's roll. Then be like, yeah, man, let's roll. No warming up, nothing. I would just roll with you. I'm that
I have the
type
same
of guy,
problem. I have
which
the
is
same
super,
problem.
super dumb. And then after the roll, I'm like, I feel my
It's
back a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have rolled with somebody 120 kilos without warming up, but I'm that person. This is how I got hurt the last time. Oh, the last time I got hurt was like with my friend. You also met him, Chupeta. You rolled with him.
Chupeta.
Yeah, the black belt
Wow.
that when we came to your training. Remember?
Wow. Oh, Pedro Elias.
Pedro, see, Chupeta.
Oh my God. I still want that guy to come back because I owe him
Yeah,
something.
he'll come back. He'll come back. So I,
I
I
owe him
was
a
with
sweep.
him, and it was like cold, and we were somewhere, and the class was gonna start in an hour. And he's super nice, chill guy. So I said like, "Hey, professor, let's train." I said, "Yeah, let's train." But he's super good. He's a lot heavier. So we trained for 1 hour straight, hard. And after that, I went, maybe I should have warmed up before
Exactly.
going to train with this kid. So I'm that type of guy. So if you now tell me like, so Shango, there's Corona, but hey, I've got 10 guys. Let's train. I'd be like, yeah, let's train.
Yeah.
Because I'm that type of person. My health is good. I usually never get ill. Yeah, maybe I'll get it. I'll get over it. That's how I would be. How I would look at it. At the same time, I'm one of the leaders of a team. One of them. I'm a teacher, so I have to be. I'm also responsible for other people, and that's different. So the things that I would do for myself, maybe I would not do for other people because if I injure myself like I did that day, yeah, that's just me being stupid, no problem. But I wouldn't want to injure you, especially not if you trust me and by the way you pay me to be your teacher and to like take
Yeah.
responsible decisions. So that's a difficult part about this for me. So I would. Do I think it's safe to return? Yeah, I think it's safe to return. There's actually, if you really look at the statistics, I like to really look at the facts, then you're going to see that there's not so much corona going on. You
Mhm.
see what the mitigating factors are. You see who is like a high risk. So I wouldn't teach high risk people. I would like, talk to everybody like, hey, if you're a caregiver, blah blah blah.
Don't
Maybe
come.
you're the guy that takes care of your grandparents. Hey, you know, take care. I would buy one of those things so I can check your temperature, stuff like that. Put some precautions in place, but yeah, I think we can train. Same
Sure.
time, I would have a good conversation with everybody and would say, hey, do you feel okay about this? Realize you're responsible for your health. Um, these are the precautions that I can take. Don't have the group too big. No guests coming from other regions or other places coming into the gym, you know, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, so I think that with some precautions, I think it's safe to train for sure.
Man, yeah. I mean, I wise words, man. Wise words. I have nothing to add
But
to that.
then, you
That's the
know,
way
if
it's.
now you call me up and say like, "Hey, man, let's roll," and these guys are also that's different. Like, hey,
I'll be
man,
there.
tell you, man.
But true, true. We
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're also
But you have
examples.
students, so you have to, you know, you
We
have
have
to
to
take
be
more
examples.
into account. Yeah.
Plus, I have an old mother at home, which I have to really
Oh,
lovingly take care of, and
oh,
with all the love in the world. So I do watch out where I go and what I do. But at this point, I think the biggest scare of the situation is gone. And as you said,
for
there
sure,
is
for
nothing I
sure,
could add
for
more. You
sure,
said it
for sure,
perfectly, my brother. And
for
yeah,
sure.
and yeah, that's about it. I think we
Because
need
I
more.
mean, there's less Corona now than in February, and we were training then, you know,
Yeah.
and we're still here. We went to London to the what's it called Abu Dhabi Grand Slam in March when Corona was just like
Yeah.
exploding, and we were like, all the people that went there, we were like, for the weigh-ins, we were like, with like few hundred people compressed into this small corridor. Everybody with you know just having cut weight and yeah, or I didn't get it, or I got it and it's already passed, you
Or
know,
something. Yeah,
whatever.
man.
You know, so I'm actually not that worried and scared. At the same time, yeah, just like I said, you're also responsible for others. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. In that spirit of being responsible for others, my brother, there's also this whole thing going on right now with the protests that truly
Yeah,
the whole story, it broke my heart. It broke my
terrible.
heart. And I I I've met with my fair share of the
Hmm.
problem at hand, the racism at hand. I've met with it. But how can we bring this back to jiu-jitsu? Because something that I do realize is that there is a lot of unity within the jiu-jitsu community, and if there wasn't any, not what I remember, within the groups and the communities I was brought in, there wasn't any racism, thank God. People were very, very cool and loving with each other. But if I look outside and I see that you're active in it, and you as I wanted to ask you, man, how do we bring this back? Well, what do we do?
that,
It's
that's
hard
a
to put
hard
it into words. It's
it's
hard
a
to put it
hard
into words.
it's a hard question. It's a good question. So we are talking about this before, and
Yeah.
I think that with the recent incidents, a lot of people felt like, hey, it's not enough to just make like a post on Instagram about this, saying that you think it's terrible that happened. So like the clicktivism is not enough. You really need to go out and be an activist, and so a lot of people did. How do I see this going forward? I don't. I think it's like a big step because also here in Holland, I think it's good that people are actually aware of this and that we're starting to have that conversation. So one of the posts that I made was actually a photo of me at one of these protests, and somebody actually reacted. A former jiu-jitsu student of mine, a nice guy that I actually really like. He was from a small village. Well, he is from a small village. He still lives there, and he would come and train with me. And he's the type of guy. He's a really cool guy that in his daily life. So he's like he's white actually, and he's actually from that village. And in his daily life, he doesn't get confronted with these issues at all. And he reacted to my post, and he said, you can see this on Facebook. And he said like, hey, you know, I really wonder what's going on because I know you, so he knows me, and I know you're this really positive person with a smile, etc. And now I see these photos where, you know, also with the mask, of course, you're gonna
Your
look different
it
anyway.
it
But
looks
anyway,
cool. It looks
yeah,
cool.
you
Your
know,
photo
now,
is
now,
cool.
now he saw these photos and he was trying to like reconcile those images, and he was trying to. He was like, hey. At the same time, he said, I respect you a lot, so I want to learn more about this because I don't look at it this way. I don't think it's like how you guys are making it out. But you know, me being there like triggered in him, and I thought it was super cool that he responded, and that was super cool that he actually asked that question. He said like, you know, we should drink a cup of coffee and talk about these things, and so that was one of the things that made me also look in the mirror because I was like, hey, that's one of the things though, because you said too that you experienced your fair share. I did as well, from small things that are super annoying, but maybe didn't change my life to bigger things. But at the same time, I rarely have spoken about these things with other people. And so I think that's really one of the key because nowadays with social media, everybody's in their bubble. Yeah, you and me, we don't need to talk about this because yeah, we both maybe understand this or on the same page, whatever. But we don't talk about this with people who see it completely differently or who have different experiences. So that really opened up to me like, hey, as a person, I should not only become more active, but also more outspoken. And I mean, not outspoken in a way of just speaking, because I think listening is like maybe even more important than having a true dialogue. But I should also open myself up more for that true dialogue because yeah, I understand that this guy comes from a village up in the North Holland, and maybe some guy from I don't know, Oost-Groningen, like the northeastern part of this country, is like, yeah, but why are these guys so concerned about Zwarte Piet? It's just a it's just a cool holiday. I get it that he thinks like that, and as he never talks to me, and that's also my fault, as I never talked to him about this. That when I was a little kid, I hated this because they were always saying to me like, "Oh, they're your brothers," or the Zwarte Piets that came in. They would also always like pull
Mhm.
me to them, put them on their lap, stuff like that. When I was like a little child, or the other kids would call me Zwarte Piet the whole year round. And I was so happy when my mom said like, oh, it's just a stupid holiday. It's actually racist. We're not going to celebrate this anymore. I was super happy. Like, oh, it's actually not true. I'm not Zwarte Piet, whatever.
Yeah, it,
But I've actually never spoken with people about this. So is this the worst thing in the world? No, of course not. But that whole way of thinking is the same way of thinking that in the end makes that a young kid growing up now uh, maybe will not get that job, or you want to buy that house and you actually have the money, but the broker, the guy that sells the house, actually like uh, they rather sell to somebody that does not look like you, and those things. So like the whole Zwarte Piet or people calling you names, yeah, that's maybe not life changing at all, but that whole system of thinking
it's a small seed.
it's part of that structure, and that's important. So going forward, I think it's just
Mm,
a lot about awareness and dialogue, and I think that
that's true,
everybody
man.
can play a part in that,
It's
beginning with
a
me because maybe I didn't do that enough. And like you, I also say like, hey, um, I did not experience it in the jiu-jitsu world at all, which is super cool. At the same time, I did hear from other people like in the US, because yeah, jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu, but it's part of a place, yeah, that in the US that it's different. But also, if you look at the origins of jiu-jitsu, and especially the Gracies, there was prejudice there, and some of it
yes.
was it wasn't like just around color, but also about social class, because
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu was a martial, it was like an art for the upper classes, right? The fight for the upper class. It was also super expensive. It's still expensive in a lot of places. Here it's not, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, if you listen to podcasts with the guys from then, like also the black guys from then, it was rare for them to be in the team. If you listen to them,
Yep.
like what's his name? He's like one of the famous
Oh, there's
refs.
so
How did you
many,
have
man.
Fabio Negao, stuff like that? He actually didn't even like being called Negao, by the way, but they gave him that name anyway because he was
Yeah.
the only black one. So for the listeners, Negao was like, nigga, like he was like the only black guy in the
Whatever.
team,
Yeah,
so
that's
the name
true.
stuck anyway. And I mean, this day he has a school in Chicago. It's a super respected guy. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, that's the origins. Like Helio Gracie, I believe had one black student, and the poor people, it was not just about color, also about money. The poor people, yeah, they couldn't afford the gi, so they did luta livre, or they came from a lineage not crazy, like GF team and stuff like that. They come from
The
the
guys
Fada, the
from the
lineage,
favela guys. TDD and all
from the
those guys.
suburbs or the
Jacaré.
favela, and the other, so the non-crazy lineages were more into teaching like the regular people. So
Yeah,
that's also a truth.
that's
Maybe
true.
not a
That's very true.
convenient truth, but it's also
It is. It is. It is. It is.
true. Yeah.
It's good to
Just
see
like
that.
that, I think that if you go to the academy of, like, say, in the US, you have all these. So the US is like different because there in California, you pay like for $300 a month to go
Yes.
with the
It's
Mendes
so
brothers, which
much.
I understand because they're the Mendes brothers. I get that. At the same time,
I
it's
know.
good, it's good that some other guys also do. So of course you need to make your money, and I think that they're doing great. They're best fighters of all times. I think that they're super good teachers as well. But it's also good that, and I think they do this as well, by the way, that they also have like what they in Brazil call like social project. Teach
Yeah.
some people for free, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's such a beautiful thing that we're doing. Of course, we need to live from this. We need to eat, etc. But it's good if you can spread it, because imagine that wouldn't be the case if you look at guys like yeah, you talked about Terere, but also like Leandro Low. Guys like them would not be world famous if it wasn't for projects like that, because they
Yeah.
all started because somebody said like, hey, you can train for free, here's a gi, whatever.
Here, take this. Yeah, that's true.
And that's also for us, but maybe even for me. Yeah, more stuff like that.
Yeah, man. I think we need more love. I think we need
Yeah,
to hear
it's
each other
hard.
out.
It's hard, and yeah, we need to try and connect better and open ourselves up more, but also to people with a different opinion, because that's a problem nowadays, just with how algorithms work.
Yeah.
You only get into contact with content that like confirms your bias, and that's
That is
just,
so true.
yeah, because
That is so true.
yeah, because that's how algorithms are. I actually make an effort now, and that effort isn't making me happy at all. So I don't read the Telegraaf. The Telegraaf is like this.
Yeah.
I think it's like the biggest newspaper in Holland, and it caters to a certain demographic. So I do not read that normally because I do not consider their point of view my point of view. But now with this whole thing going on, the protest, I actually make a conscious effort, and I don't like it because I really don't like what they say, to once in a while read that newspaper, well, on the internet, of course, and I don't, but to at least see what they're talking about, because I think it's rubbish, but 70% of the population thinks that what's written there, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
That's those people's perspective. That's
Yeah.
where they reason from. So maybe me too should get off his high horse and have a look and read it and see like, hey, so that's why this person does not understand me, or that's why this person takes this stance, yeah.
Oh, God. That is exactly it.
But yeah, it's hard,
Step in
but
another
yeah.
person's shoes. Step into the other person's shoes.
Yeah, it's hard because I read things there and I'm like, man, it's crazy. Hey, whoa, wait a minute, they're talking about me here.
Yeah.
They're talking about
Goodness.
people like my kids here, but
Yep.
has to be done. We have to get into a better dialogue, and I think that especially here in Holland, we're very good at sweeping things under the rug and just pretending that, yeah, it's all okay, it's all good.
Yeah, I know that is. At least now there's a lot of attention brought to it, and with this opens up the
Yeah,
possibility to more things that need attention. It's the
yeah,
kick in the door towards
yeah.
a planting a seed, which a seed has been
True.
planted some time ago, and it was the wrong seed that grew into a tree.
Yeah.
That
And don't forget, because it's funny because like you, I also say like, hey, the jiu-jitsu community, there's no prejudices, or I didn't experience them as a person, which is super good.
yeah.
But maybe there are different prejudices though. Like, how's it for women, for example? I was
Oh
super
yeah,
happy that we
there you
had
go.
some more women in our team, but we now have, I think, 4 or 5. One time we were on the mat, we had like 5 or 6 ladies. I was like, yeah, it's going
Why
great. But
finally the women are showing up? Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, if you take a step back, that's not great at all because yeah, women are like 50% of the population. So you know, I think
I
4 on
know.
the mat. Even though I was super happy, yeah, yeah, we can all do better. Or well, I mean, if are we providing the right environment? I mean, as a community for them to train in.
Yeah,
I
that
hope
is
to think
true.
that I am. I'm trying to at least, but time will tell.
That's something we can. We It's really
And
hard.
I mean, the women I train with are all killers,
Yes, they
but like
are. Yes, they
real
are.
killers, like super killers. So
That is true.
I'm
How
super
would
happy with that. Yeah,
and it's almost impossible for us men to put ourselves in a situation to look at our gym and
yeah,
say,
you don't
what
know.
would women want from this? And it is because it is most of the gyms you walk into and you smells like men. Good. This is the place I have to be. It smells like blood, sweat, and tears. I see. And yeah, what are the little details that make it a little bit more stuff? We have to live more in each other's shoes. We have to live more in each other's lives.
And to talk about women in the gym, that's an easy conversation because I think that most people see that it's important or that it should be inclusive in that sense. But how about the thing that maybe, especially in the fighting community, is more taboo? How about like, hey, so what about if this gay person comes in the gym? Now, then I think that most people would be like, hey, as long as I don't know, it's okay. But
There you go. There you go.
is that leading by example? Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Will the person have to hide who he is the whole time?
Exactly, because I think that in most gyms, so in the U.S. Army they had this policy: don't ask, don't tell. So like, hey, as long as I don't know, it's cool. So and I think that in most gyms it's like that, like, hey, as long as I don't know, it's cool. However, is that fair?
Somebody once gave
And
me
then
the
that one is
example.
harder because the other one, yeah, we should have more women. Yeah, no, we shouldn't be racist. Yeah, of course not. But if you now say like, yeah, hey, so how about gay guys in the team?
How?
Oh, hold on.
Oh,
They'll sleep together in a room or even in a bed. Hey, no.
there you go. There you go. It's
You want
getting
to
harder.
maybe be faced with your own prejudices. Yeah.
Instead
Still,
of
though,
looking with love and seeing that
conversation that
person
needs
as
to
a
be
person, right? As a human. Oh, that is some weird stuff. There's another one. I have so many questions, but we've been going on for
yeah.
so long. I don't
Really?
know what
What
to
time is
do.
it? Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh, this was a good one. My brother, I think we're gonna have a part two very
Yeah,
soon.
we should. We
We
should. We
should. This was really good, and I hope
I
to
hope we can
God,
have that one on the mat though, and then yeah,
yes. And then I want to learn something from you. I want to learn a technique. Maybe we can put that up too. There's
that's
going to
gonna be
be.
cool.
We're going to do some giveaways in the future again. We got some more stuff
Yeah,
from our sponsors. And Chango, those were amazing. That was some
yeah, it was
amazing
good. It was good
wisdom.
fun. It was good fun. Yeah,
Awesome to hear from you. Awesome to talk to you. Everything went perfectly well. My brother, I'm gonna end it today here. I hope everybody that watched this or is gonna watch this is gonna love it. And but keep the love going. I would say in this whole beautiful message.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. God, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk a little bit. For
My pleasure.
Yeah, that's it basically. So I just hope when we meet again, we'll meet on the mat. Really hope so.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We might do it sneakily eventually.
Yeah, if it goes on for a long time, then I will not be able to control myself anymore. Then we'll just just be Fight Club somewhere. But yeah,
I'm
little
advising everybody to
clandestino. Yeah, yeah.
let's not talk about Fight Club just yet. We're not allowed to. All right, everybody watching, thank you so much.
Oos, thank you.
This was Chango. Follow him on Instagram, and I will end it right